Welcome to the deep dive. And, well, today's a really big day. We're not just talking about history today, we are literally watching it unfold.
That's absolutely right, because today, November 1st, 2025, it's finally happened. The Grand Egyptian Museum, the GM in Giza, is officially opening its doors.
It feels momentous, doesn't it, after all this time?
Genuinely monumental. Yeah. I mean, think about it. This project has been in the works for over 3 decades.
30 years. Wow.
Yeah, it cost $1 billion, survived, revolutions, a global pandemic, just to get to this point, to today.
And our sources, they really detail this incredible journey, don't they? But our focus today, our deep dive, it's more than just listing dates, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding the why behind it all.
Yeah.
The sheer scale. It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. Over 100,000 artifacts in the collection. And the physical size, 500,000 square meters.
500,000. It makes it the largest museum in the world dedicated entirely to just one single civilization.
And its location is just perfect, only 2 kilometers from the Giza Pyramid complex itself.
And that proximity isn't accidental. What's fascinating, I think, is the whole curatorial idea behind bringing everything together like this.
Right, because for so long, our understanding of ancient Egypt felt, well, fragmented.
Completely. You had pieces scattered everywhere. The old museum in Cairo, obviously, but also Luxor, Alexandria, even museums abroad.
And often displayed based on what looks, rather than telling a coherent story.
Pretty much. Aesthetic appeal often trumped historical flow. So the GM aims to change that narrative fundamentally.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack this colossal undertaking. We're talking the 33-year journey.
The architecture, too, how the modern building actually speaks to the ancient pyramids next door.
And crucially, the collection itself, how having everything together, especially presented chronologically for the first time, how that's going to shift how we all understand Egyptian history.
It's moving from seeing fragments to seeing the whole picture, a kind of synthesis.
I like that.
Yeah, that transformation is really the core idea. The location, the way it's organized by time, and having, for instance, the entire Tutankhamun collection together, it all works to tell a story that just hasn't been told this way before.
Okay. But before we mentally step inside those opening doors today, we really need to appreciate the journey, that long, often difficult road that led us right here to November 1st, 2025.
Absolutely. It wasn't straightforward at all.
All right, let's dive into that long road. It starts way back, doesn't it? The 1990s.
It does. And it wasn't just about needing more space, although the old museum was certainly overcrowded.
No, it was more fundamental than that.
Very much so. The idea really came from this deep dissatisfaction with how Egypt's heritage was being presented.
Ah, okay. The old Egyptian museum in Tahrir Square. I mean, it's iconic, but maybe not ideal for modern standards.
Exactly. And the person who really pushed for the GM initially, the former Minister of Culture, Farouk Hosni, he wasn't shy about saying so.
What did he say?
He was incredibly blunt.
Yeah.
Called the old museum old-fashioned, disorganized. He even said visiting it gave him headaches and depression.
Wow, that's quite a critique.
It was. It wasn't just, an administrative complaint. It was emotional. He felt Egypt's legacy deserved something better, something up to modern preservation and display standards.
You can see the point. A kind of national pride demanding a space on par with, say, the Louvre, but focused entirely on their own story.
Precisely. So the idea gains traction in the 90s. President Hosni Mubarak officially launches the project in 1992.
92, okay. But then there's a gap. The foundation stone isn't laid until 2002.
Right. And actual construction, boots on the ground, that didn't really start properly until 2005.
So even from the very beginning, there were delays built in. It signals the complexity, I guess.
Really does. And you have to remember the scale.
Thanks.
This commitment stretched over decades, and the cost, $1 billion by the time it was finally completed in 2023.
$1 billion? Where did that funding come from? It's massive.
It's staggering. It was a mix, really. Egyptian government funding, of course, but also significant loans, particularly from Japan, and various external donations, too.
When you see that number, $1 billion, you have to wonder about the return. This isn't just building a museum, it's a huge statement.
It's absolutely a statement. Egypt aiming to set a new global standard for this kind of museum.
And they expect it to pay off, tourism-wise.
That's the projection. The sources suggest the anticipated tourism revenue linked directly to the GM could potentially justify that cost within about a decade.
Assuming things stay stable in the region, of course.
That's the big caveat, always. But yes, it's Egypt's big play to really dominate the ancient history tourism market.
And the actual construction, or who handled that?
It was a joint venture. You had the Belgian BD6 group, who have a lot of experience with large, complex projects,
Okay.
partnered with the major Egyptian company, Orscom Construction. They had to handle everything from, huge earth-moving operations initially to the incredibly delicate logistics of moving giant ancient artifacts later on.
Which leads us nicely into let's call it the era of postponements. Because the original plan was for a 2020 opening, wasn't it?
It was. Feels like a different world now looking back.
Doesn't it just, what happened with 2020? Obviously the pandemic.
Yeah, COVID-19 basically threw a huge wrench in the works almost immediately. International logistics just froze. Getting specialized installation crews in, preparing the artifacts, everything stopped.
So that pushed it to 2021.
It did. But even when the pandemic started to ease up a bit, the sheer scale of the task,
Yeah.
just handling all those artifacts,
Yeah.
finishing the highly specialized internal stuff like the conservation labs, it just took longer.
So more delays.
Yeah.
Late 2022, then early 2023 became the targets.
Exactly. It's one thing to build the shell. It's another to get 5,000 delicate objects from Tutankhamun's tomb alone, ready and installed perfectly, let alone the other tens of thousands.
It's mind-boggling logistics. But the museum wasn't just sitting there empty during these final years, was it? They had that trial phase.
Yes, and that was absolutely critical, not just for bringing in some early revenue, but for testing everything.
Like a dress rehearsal.
A massive one. It started back in October 2024. They called it a trial period, basically a soft opening. They let in up to 4,000 visitors a day.
4,000 a day. That's significant.
It is. And over the 10 months leading up to the final closure, before today's grand opening, they had about 1.5 million visitors come through.
Wow. So that allowed them to really fine-tune everything. Security, climate control, how people move through the space, ticketing.
Exactly. All the operational systems got a real-world stress test before the massive global spotlight hit them today.
Smart. But even after that successful trial, there was one more delay. Earlier this year, right? The planned July 3rd opening got scrapped.
Yes, that was the final hurdle. And this one was purely geopolitical.
The conflict between Iran and Israel.
That was the stated reason, yes. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli announced the postponement, citing the ongoing military conflict and the expected regional instability.
So security concerns, basically, for a big international opening event.
That seems to have been the primary driver, according to the sources, ensuring the safety of visiting dignitaries, heads of state, and also, frankly, protecting Egypt's vital tourism sector from any potential disruption during a sensitive time. It was a high-stakes call.
Understandable, I suppose. So that decision was made, and then they finally landed on today, November 1st.
Yes, the final confirmation came from President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on August 6th this year. He agreed on November 1st, locking it in.
And that led to the temporary closure we just saw.
Right. To manage the shift from the trial operations to today's massive official ceremony, the whole complex shut down temporarily from October 15th until November 3rd, just for final checks, media setups, installing high security measures for the event itself.
So today, November 1st, 2025, is the official grand opening ceremony. But when do regular visitors get back in?
There's a nice bit of symbolism there. The museum reopens its doors to the public on November 4th.
November 4th. Why that date?
It's the 103rd anniversary of Howard Carter's discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun.
Ah, brilliant. Tying the museum's public opening directly to its most famous resident, so to speak.
Exactly. It's a deliberate signal that the newly unified collection of the Boy King is really the spiritual heart of this whole massive new institution.
Okay, so we've covered the decades it took to reach today. Let's talk about the building itself. You mentioned its design connects to the Giza landscape. How does it actually do that? How does this modern structure talk to the pyramids?
Well, that dialogue, that conversation between the new museum and the ancient pyramids, that was really the core challenge for the architects.
And they chose the architects through a competition.
A huge one. Announced back in 2002, it attracted, get this, 1,557 entries.
1,557. Seriously.
From 82 different countries. Our sources say it was the second largest architectural competition in history. Just shows you the prestige and, frankly, the difficulty of the project.
Incredible. And the winners were an Irish firm.
That's right. Rosen Hennigan and Shifu Peng of Hennigan Peng Architects, based in Ireland. And their winning concept wasn't about competing with the pyramids, which you could never do.
No, you'd lose that battle.
Right. Instead, their idea was to frame them, to create a structure that acknowledges and respects the ancient monuments.
How do they achieve that architecturally?
The building itself has this distinctive shape, like a chamfered triangle. But the real genius is in the alignment.
The alignment.
Yes. The museum's north and south walls aren't just randomly placed. They are precisely positioned to line up directly with the Great Pyramid of Khufu and the Pyramid of Menkaure.
So, from certain viewpoints, the museum walls literally point to the pyramids.
Exactly. It creates this powerful visual and geographical connection. It physically ties this 21st century building into that 4,500-year-old sacred landscape. It's incredibly thoughtful.
That is profound. A visual dialogue across millennia. What about the materials? What does it look like up close?
They wanted materials that felt both permanent and somehow luminous. So you see a lot of marble and a lot of glass.
And the facade is quite special, I hear.
Very. It's decorated with thousands of cartouches and hieroglyphs, the names of ancient kings and queens. So it carries that textual link to the past right on its skin.
Like the building itself is inscribed with history.
And a key feature is the use of translucent alabaster stone for the main facade. Imagine that under the Egyptian sun, it must give the building this incredible glow, almost ethereal.
Wow. And that luminous exterior leads you into the main entrance, the grand hall or atrium?
Correct. That's where your experience inside begins. And it's vast, 10,000 square meters.
10,000 square meters just for the entrance hall.
Just the entrance. And the key design feature here is transparency. It has this huge glass roof and a massive transparent facade specifically designed so that even when you're inside the museum, the Giza pyramids are still visible.
So you never lose sight of them. They're always present.
That's the deliberate intent. They act as these silent, colossal anchors to the whole experience. You're constantly reminded of the history just outside the window.
And as you step into that vast space, you're immediately met by, well, a giant.
You certainly are. The centerpiece, the main introductory artifact in the atrium, is that absolutely colossal statue of Pharaoh Ramesses II.
How big are we talking?
It stands 11 meters tall, that's over 36 feet, and weighs 83 tons.
83 tons. How did they even move that?
Very, very carefully. It was a huge undertaking in itself, moving it from its previous location. But it serves as this immediate, powerful symbol of pharaonic authority right as you walk in.
Kind of sets the tone. Is it alone there?
No, it's the anchor, but it's accompanied by maybe 20 or 30 other large artifacts. They're carefully chosen to give you a taste of the breadth of the collection and the historical periods the museum covers.
A powerful introduction. And from there, your eye is drawn upwards, right? To the grand staircase.
Yes. And this staircase, it's not just a way to get between floors. It's absolutely central to the whole visitor journey.
More than just stairs, then.
Much more. Think of it as a transitional gallery in its own right. It covers 6,000 square meters and rises 6 stories high, about 50 meters, or 160 feet.
6 stories high. Wow.
And the whole idea is that as you ascend, you are literally walking up through pharaonic history before you even reach the main exhibition halls.
Okay, how does that work? You mentioned it displays artifacts, over 60 of them?
That's right. And they're not just placed randomly. They're arranged into 4 distinct chronological and thematic sections. That's like 4 mini exhibits on the way up.
Interesting. What's the first section about?
Section 1 is called the royal image. It focuses entirely on how the pharaohs presented themselves. You see royal statues, reliefs. It's all about understanding their crafted image, their power, their propaganda, if you like.
How they want it to be seen. Makes sense. What comes after the royal image?
That naturally leads into the religious context.
Yeah.
So section 2 is divine houses. This looks at temples and explores the really complex relationship between the gods and the pharaohs. How did they interact? What was the role of the temple? You see religious art here.
Okay, royal power, then the divine connection. What's third?
The third section broadens that out. It's called Gods and Kings. This delves deeper into the ancient Egyptian pantheon itself. You learn about specific gods, their roles, and how different rulers associated themselves with particular deities throughout history. He gives you the theological backstory.
Right, setting you up for what you'll see in the main halls. So you've climbed through power, religion, theology. Where does the staircase leave you?
It culminates in the 4th and final section, right before you enter the main galleries, the funerary section.
Focusing on the afterlife.
Exactly. It's a powerful introduction to those themes. You see large stone coffins, incredibly detailed sarcophagi, and significantly something called a Hermione.
A Hermione, what's that?
It's the technical term for the capstone of a pyramid, the very top piece. This one dates from the 13th dynasty.
Why display a pyramid capstone there, right at the top of the stairs?
Think about what it represents. The pyramidion, or Hermione, is the point connecting the tomb, the earth, and the heavens. It symbolizes the king's ascent and immortality. Placing it there just before you enter halls filled with tomb treasures, powerfully reminds you that everything from Tutankhamun's gold to everyday objects is tied into this profound Egyptian belief in the afterlife.
It grounds the whole experience in that core belief. Very clever. Are there any other standout pieces on the staircase?
Yes, one really notable example is the striking head of King Akhenaten from that controversial Amarna period around 1350 BCE. Seeing that powerful, stylized face there just underscores the quality and scale of artifacts they're using even in this transitional space.
Okay, that staircase sounds like an experience in itself. It's successfully primed us for the main event, and there's really no question what the absolute star attraction, the gravitational center of the whole GM is going to be, is there.
Not at all. It has to be the complete, unified collection of Tutankhamun.
Complete. That's the key word here, isn't it?
It's the defining feature. For the very first time anywhere in the world, the public can see every single piece recovered from Tutankhamun's tomb, all 5,398 of them together.
5,398 artifacts. That just changes everything, doesn't it? Seeing it all in one place.
Fundamentally, before, we saw highlights. Maybe the mask here, some furniture there. Now you see the entire context, the full picture of what a pharaoh needed or thought he needed for the afterlife.
That sheer number must take up a huge amount of space.
It does. The Tutankhamun collection occupies 2 of the 12 main exhibition halls. That's 7,000 square meters dedicated just to him.
7,000 square meters.
And the way it's displayed isn't just like a treasure chest dumped open. The curators designed the halls to try and evoke the feeling of the original tomb, KV62, in the Valley of the Kings.
How do they do that? And how do they protect such fragile items?
Well, visually, through the layout and lighting. But technically, it relies on incredibly sophisticated environmental controls. We're talking precise temperature and humidity management, constantly monitored. It's absolutely vital for preserving the really sensitive materials, things like ancient wood, fabrics, textiles, and of course the gold leaf itself, which is incredibly fragile.
Right. So let's talk about some of those treasures. Obviously, the mask.
The golden mask, yes. It's the icon, the centerpiece, no question. But seeing it now, surrounded by everything else, it gains even more power.
Like what else? The coffins.
Exactly. You can see the nest of 3 coffins, one inside the other, and the innermost one. Well, it's made of solid gold.
Solid gold. How heavy is that?
It weighs 110 kilograms.
110 kilos. It's what, nearly 250 pounds of pure gold?
Incredible craftsmanship, incredible wealth. But it's not just about the gold. There are pieces that tell such human stories.
Like the throne.
The golden throne, yes. It's covered in gold and silver leaf, precious stones. But the scene depicted on the back is what's really captivating. It shows Tutankhamun and his wife, Ankhesenamun, in this really intimate, almost casual pose.
Ah, that famous image. It's quite different from the usual formal pharaoh portraits.
Completely. It gives you this rare glimpse of, well, tenderness, domesticity, a personal moment amidst all the state regalia. Seeing the whole collection allows you to see him not just as a symbol, but perhaps a bit more as a person.
So you get the full spectrum from immense wealth and power to these more personal touches.
Precisely. And you see the functional items, too. His daily tools, his weapons, daggers, bows and arrows, furniture beds, chairs, boxes, even things like dining utensils, the mundane alongside the magnificent.
And then there are all the religious items, right? Statues, amulets.
Thousands of them. You see statues of gods, like the famous Anubis shrine. You see amulets for protection, intricate jewelry, and of course the Ushabti figurines.
Right, you mentioned those. Remind us what exactly Ushabtis were for.
Okay, so Ushabti basically means answerer. They were small figurines, often mummy-shaped, placed in the tomb in huge numbers.
Hundreds in Tut's too, right?
Hundreds. And the belief was, in the afterlife, if the gods called upon the deceased king to do any kind of manual labor like farming Osiris's fields or digging canals.
Which the king probably didn't fancy doing.
Exactly. The idea was these Ushabti figurines would magically come to life and say, "Here I am," and do the work for him. They were essentially his afterlife servants, his magical workforce.
An ancient insurance policy against hard work in eternity. Brilliant.
Pretty much. Seeing all of them together really drives home the Egyptians' detailed planning for the afterlife.
It really paints a complete picture of his world daily life. Royalty, war, religion, afterlife. But we should be clear, the king himself isn't here, is he?
That's a crucial point. No. While every single artifact from his tomb, KV62, has been moved and is now displayed here at the GM in Giza,
Tutankhamun's mummy.
his actual mummy remains in the Valley of the Kings, in Luxor. It's still resting within KV-62. That decision was made out of respect for the original context and also for the mummy's long-term preservation and stability.
Understood. Okay, moving from the New Kingdom back to the Old Kingdom, the GM is also home to another massive piece of history, Khufu's ships.
Yes, the solar boats of King Khufu, the pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid. These are incredibly important.
They have their own dedicated space.
They do. There's a separate but connected Khufu Ships Museum built specifically to house these two vessels. And these are just ancient, around 4,600 years old, some of the oldest intact wooden ships ever found anywhere.
4,600 years. The challenge of preserving and moving something like that must have been immense.
Herculean is probably the right word. The first ship, found back in 1954, was housed in a somewhat basic museum right next to the pyramid for decades.
I remember that old building.
Moving that ship, which weighs about 20 tons and is incredibly fragile across the Giza Plateau to the new GM facility in August 2021. It was a massive, high-tech, incredibly delicate operation.
I bet, and now they're in a proper climate-controlled environment.
Exactly. The new museum explains their story, uses interactive displays to talk about their possible purpose. Were they funerary barges to carry the king's body? Or symbolic boats for his journey with the sun god Ra in the afterlife? We still debate it, but now they're preserved for the future.
Fantastic. And finally, while Tutankhamun and Khufu get the big headlines, we need to remember the sheer scale of the rest of the collection.
Absolutely. We keep saying over 100,000 artifacts, and they span the entire range of ancient Egyptian history, from the pre-dynastic period before the pharaohs right through to Coptic Egypt in the early centuries CE.
And a lot of this hasn't been seen before.
That's a key point from the sources. At least 20,000 artifacts on display in the GEM are being shown to the public for the very first time.
20,000 debut pieces. Where did they come from?
Many were in storage facilities for decades. Others have undergone long-term, painstaking restoration. This includes important collections like the funerary goods of Queen Hedefires.
Khufu's mother.
That's her. And also the collection belonging to Yuya and Tuyu.
Who were they again?
They were powerful nobles, the parents of Queen Tai, who was the influential wife of Amenhotep III. Their tomb was remarkably intact when found. So the GM isn't just relocating known items, it's genuinely unveiling newly accessible history on a massive scale.
Okay, so the collection is unprecedented, the building is spectacular, but the real promise, the thing that might fundamentally shift understanding, is how it's all organized, right?
Yeah.
That chronological flow through the 12 main halls.
This is where the synthesis happens. This is the core curatorial strategy that sets the GM apart. Those 12 main halls, which take up about a third of the whole site, by the way, are laid out in a strict time sequence.
Strict sequence. Starting when and ending when?
Starting way back, around 3100 BCE, with the unification of Egypt and the beginning of the dynastic period. And it runs all the way through to about 400 CE, covering the Roman period in Egypt.
So you literally walk through 3,500 years of history.
That's the idea.
Yep.
It provides this narrative thread, this understanding of development, change, continuity, and eventually transformation that was often missing in older museum layouts where things might be grouped by material or theme, but not necessarily time.
That makes so much sense. Can you give us a quick breakdown of how the eras map onto the halls?
Sure. The journey starts logically with the formation of the state. Halls 1, 2, and 3 cover the very beginnings. Prehistoric finds, the pre-dynastic cultures, the early dynastic period when kingship solidified, then the Old Kingdom, the age of the great pyramid builders, and finally the first intermediate period when central authority collapsed for a time.
So the origins and the first peak, what comes next?
Halls 4, 5, and 6 move into the Middle Kingdom. This is a period of reunification, often seen as a classical age for literature and art, followed by the second intermediate period, another time of division and foreign influence, notably the Hyksos.
Okay, so rise, fall, Renaissance, fall again, leads us to the Imperial Age.
Exactly. Halls 7, 8, and 9 are dedicated entirely to the New Kingdom. This is Egypt at its imperial height. The great warrior pharaohs like Thutmose III, Ramesses II, the expansion of the empire, incredible temple building at Karnak and Luxor, and of course, this is the era of Tutankhamun.
So his treasures in halls X and Y presumably sit right within their proper historical context provided by halls 7, 8, 9.
Precisely. You understand the world he was born into before you see his specific burial goods. It provides immediate context.
Perfect. And the final stretch.
Halls 10, 11, and 12 cover the final chapters of native Egyptian rule and the subsequent periods. You get the third intermediate period, the late period, with Persian and Nubian influence, and then the Ptolemaic, Greek, and Roman periods. It shows how ancient Egypt gradually transformed and integrated into the wider Hellenistic and Roman worlds.
A complete story, cradle to, well, transformation. And pulling all that together required gathering artifacts from all over Egypt.
All over. Items were meticulously selected and relocated not just from the old Cairo Museum and its storerooms, but from sites and museums in Luxor, Minya, Sohag, Alexandria, even remote storage facilities. It was a nationwide logistical puzzle lasting years.
And moving these incredibly old, often fragile, sometimes enormous pieces that requires serious conservation expertise. Which brings us to the GandM's Conservation Center.
Yes, and this facility is arguably just as important as the display halls for the long-term legacy. It's the engine room keeping the history alive.
It was built quite early on, wasn't it?
It was one of the first parts of the project to get going. Established in 2006, fully operational by 2010. And it's world-class, recognized as one of the largest and best-equipped conservation centers anywhere, and certainly the biggest dedicated to antiquities in the entire Middle East.
What makes it so special? What's inside?
Well, first, its scale and location. It's situated just west of the main museum building, conveniently connected by a 200-meter underground tunnel.
For safely moving artifacts back and forth?
Exactly. And inside, it houses 19 highly specialized laboratories. Think about the different materials they have to deal with.
Right, you've got stone, wood, metal, pottery, textiles.
Papyrus, mummies, wall paintings. Each needs its own specific environment, tools, and expertise. So there are dedicated labs for all of these. Plus, they have 6 large environmentally controlled storage rooms for artifacts that aren't currently on display or are awaiting research.
So the GM isn't just showing history, it's actively preserving and studying it on a massive scale. It's a living institution.
Absolutely. That's fundamental to its mission. But the planning also looked forward, thinking about how to engage people, especially younger generations.
It's a children's museum.
Yes. It's a significant space, 5,000 square meters, designed specifically for kids aged roughly 6 to 12. And the philosophy is totally different from a traditional museum.
How so? Less look but don't touch.
Much less. The emphasis is all on interactive learning. They use things like virtual reality, hands-on games, replicas, activities designed to let kids engage directly and make discoveries for themselves. It opened partially back in August 2024, testing the waters.
That sounds fantastic. A way to spark that initial curiosity and maybe inspire future Egyptologists.
That's definitely the hope. And it's not just kids. The GM is built to engage the global academic community, too, with its conference center.
Right, you mentioned that. It's pretty big.
Huge, 40,000 square meters, designed from the ground up to be a major international hub for conferences, symposia, lectures related to Egyptology and museology.
What kind of facilities does it have?
Top-tier stuff. There's a main auditorium that seats 1,000 people, 3 smaller seminar halls, each holding 250, and even a 250-seat 3D theater, presumably for immersive historical presentations.
And the design reflects the museum's theme.
Yes, even the conference center's architecture subtly echoes ancient pharaonic sites. The use of stone, the scale, the geometric motifs, it maintains that aesthetic link.
Smart. They also plan for temporary shows, right, to keep things fresh.
Absolutely essential for a modern museum. There are 4 dedicated temporary exhibition halls, adding up to 5,000 square meters of space.
And that's part of a larger area for non-permanent displays.
Yes. In total, the sources mentioned 32,000 square meters of space across the museum designated for non-permanent or rotating exhibitions. That allows them to host major international shows, showcase recent discoveries, or explore specific themes in more detail. Keeps people coming back.
This whole massive operation needs top-level management, I assume.
Of course. The overall strategic direction comes from a board of trustees. It's a 16-member board appointed directly by the President of Egypt, serving 3-year terms. They oversee the policy, the finances, the international partnerships, ensuring it functions as a major national cultural asset.
And the museum has already started functioning as a cultural venue even before today's official opening.
It has, testing its capabilities. A notable example was back in January 2023, they held the first musical concert inside the museum complex.
Oh, really? Who performed?
The acclaimed Egyptian soprano, Fatma said. It was a clear signal that the GM intends to be more than just a place for artifacts. It aims to be a living, breathing center for culture and the arts in modern Egypt. #outro.
Well, it's quite overwhelming when you pull it all together. Today, November 1st, 2025, it really marks the culmination of an epic journey.
Absolutely. Decades of planning, dreaming, overcoming huge obstacles, from that initial critique back in the 90s about the old museum being, depressing,
Right, through revolutions, funding challenges, pandemics, geopolitical delays.
to finally arrive here at the opening of this incredible place. It truly is a meeting point of deep history, stunning modern architecture, and cutting-edge conservation science.
And its core promise, really, is to redefine how we experience ancient Egypt, to give us that comprehensive chronological view, finally.
Exactly, especially with the Tutankhamun collection, completely reunited after 103 years, sitting right in the middle of that historical narrative told across the 12 halls. It forces a shift, doesn't it, away from just gawking at gold.
Towards understanding the context, the flow, the sheer continuity of this amazing 3,000-year civilization.
That power of synthesis, seeing the whole story laid out, rather than just disconnected highlights, that feels like the GM's biggest potential contribution.
It really does. And thinking about that synthesis, especially as the doors prepare to open to the public in just a few days on that poignant anniversary, let's leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Okay, consider this. For generations, anyone wanting to understand Egyptian history in depth had to mentally stitch it together. You'd see Old Kingdom pieces here, New Kingdom there, maybe late period items in a different museum altogether, or even a different country.
It was fragmented knowledge. You had to do the connecting yourself.
But now at the GM, you walk up that grand staircase, getting that thematic and chronological primer. Then you physically walk through halls 1 to 12, moving seamlessly from 3100 BCE to 400 CE.
And Tutankhamun isn't isolated. You encounter his world after understanding the New Kingdom context in the preceding halls and before seeing the periods that followed. It's all integrated.
So here's the question to think about. With this unprecedented chronological arrangement, and with the complete Tutankhamun collection presented as a unified whole for the very first time, how will this fundamentally change global understanding?
Well, seeing the story laid out so clearly, so sequentially, the origins, the peaks, the transitions, the decline and transformation finally allow for a more unified, less fragmented appreciation.
Could this lead to genuinely new insights into the complexity, the resilience, the sheer continuity of ancient Egyptian civilization, simply because it's being presented holistically for the first time on this scale?
It's a fascinating question. The impact this museum, opening today, might have on our collective understanding for generations to come. Something for all of us to watch.
Indeed. The next chapter in understanding ancient Egypt arguably begins right now.